All right, I'm here. Twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. Thanks so much for joining us on a Monday. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Hopefully you watched the Celtics act like they didn't want to win a game 6 that they absolutely had to have in order to not be eliminated. Hope you enjoyed the football this weekend. Hope you enjoyed the really quite disappointing, and I don't really know why everyone was so excited for SEC football slate. It's like, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just a horrible sports fan, but I couldn't care less that you're getting bad football teams playing bad football teams. The Big 12 is horrible. Really their only chance was Oklahoma, and they lost to Kansas State. Shouts to Sam Ehlinger and the Texas Longhorns. Hopefully they can keep it rolling. If nothing else, that's an experienced quarterback, so they at least have that going for them. But other than that, not a whole lot to write home about in the Big 12. Not a whole lot to write home about at all. We got a lot to talk about. The baseball season's over, and this was a byproduct of a short season is that there's not a whole lot that's been figured out when it comes to the end of the baseball season. I hope you're enjoying my dog barking in the background, by the way. There's a lot of things that you don't love about a 60-game season. Of course, because of the trying to minimize travel, you're not playing, teams completely across the league, and what that does is you're actually going to get some series between, a lot of series between teams that have not played a single game against each other, at least in the first round, which is exciting and really sets up for some interesting matchups in the first round. So at about 11:20 or so, we'll talk about those matchups, give you my wild card predictions for the wild card round in the baseball playoffs. But usually, we get down to the last day, and maybe you get down to it, and a team's either going to win this game and win their division, or lose this game and miss the playoffs because the wild card is going to go to somebody completely different, who's in a better division and has a better record. They just happen to be in a division that has a much better team, and you get something like that every once in a while. But yesterday, and shouts to my boy Chris Brown, who he was on top of things yesterday. He tweeted that there were about to be 14 games that were about to be played, and those 14 games, let me see if I can find it for you real quick. 14 MLB games, not a single first-round matchup is set. 4 NL teams are fighting for 2 playoff spots, and countless AL seeding alignments remain in play. That's just not something you typically. Jeff Passan tweeting, in 37 of 44 scenarios, St. Louis is in 33 of 44 scenarios, Milwaukee is in. So there's so many scenarios here to decipher, and a lot of possible outcomes, but it leaves interesting baseball all the way through the end of the regular season, and now we have an interesting playoffs to set up. We have a series that is a best of 3 series, which makes things iffy. I mean, worst teams win 3-game series on the road against better teams all the time in the regular season. Happens all the time. So, and if we get to a point where, this wildcard thing isn't a huge deal, and not giving the best teams in baseball, some sort of reward for winning their division, for being one of the best teams in baseball. Like, if we get to the second round and the Rays and the Dodgers are both out because they both had bad 3-game series, then we got an issue. But that set up, we'll go through predictions at 11:20 or so. Do FYI at the end of the show. Get out of here. So But we're going to start with, first of all, I need to get something off my chest. I need to get something off my chest right now. The following things are true. Andre Iguodala is a long-time good basketball player. Andre Iguodala is about to go to his 6th straight finals. Fact. 5 of the 6 teams would have gone to the finals even if Andre Iguodala was not on that team. Apart from maybe in 15-16, the Thunder probably win that series in the West Finals if it's not for Iguodala. That series was that close. But can we not? I mean, let me tell you what Bleacher Report tweeted this morning. I think it was Bleacher Report. Something to the effect of, I mean, it's like LeBron. It's like Iguodala is doing the same thing that LeBron has done. No. The last time Iguodala averaged more than 10 points in a playoffs in a playoffs was 2014-15. The last time these playoffs, 4 points per game in 19 minutes. Let me repeat that for you. 4 points a game in 19 minutes. Iguodala could have been sitting at home with a bowl of popcorn trying to get a kernel out of his teeth, and they still would have made it to the finals. Four points, 7 points, 3 points, 5 points, 2 points, 4 points, 6 points, 0 points, 6 points, 3 points, 0-0-3-2. Those were his numbers, and then he had 15 in Game 6. He was good in Game 6. 14 playoff games prior to last night. No more than 7 points in a single game. And the 7 points, and he hasn't had more than 6 since the beginning of the Milwaukee series, and he only did that twice. Other than that, he hasn't had more than 4. And then he had 15 last night. Shut up about Iguodala. I don't understand the fascination with making a big deal out of a thing that is about a player that's irrelevant right now. What? We come out of this series where the Heat, the 5 seed, the Miami Heat, are going to the East Finals, and all that's being talked about this morning is that Iguodala is going to his 6th straight finals. Who cares? Why don't we talk about the 9 other players on that team that are more important to their chances of winning a title than he is? He played less than 8 minutes. He played less than 15 minutes 3 times and less than 8 minutes twice. And we're going to sit here and talk about what? How about we talk about the fact that Bam had 32, 14, and 5 on 11 to 15 shooting, that Jimmy Butler showed up in a Game 6 and an elimination game, that Duncan Robinson was 5 of 7 from the three-point line, that Tyler Hero again had 19 points, he had 7 assists and 5 rebounds. Jimmy Butler, 22 and 8. Talk about these reasons that the Heat have a real chance to beat the Lakers in the NBA Finals. Let's talk about this basketball game. Listen, the Heat outscored Boston 37-27. The score at one point was 96-90 Boston. They lost this game 125-113. Again, they didn't look like a team in the fourth quarter that looked all that interested in winning the basketball game. Bam and Jimmy combined for 19 in the fourth quarter. Tyler Hero had 11 in the fourth quarter on 4 of 5 shooting. He showed up again. Bam had 10, 7, and 4 in the fourth quarter alone. Nobody else on that. Jason Tatum 2 of 6, Jaylen Brown 3 of 6, Marcus Smart 1 of 6. 0 free throws for Marcus Smart. 2 points. Kemba Walker couldn't make an open 3-pointer to save his life. Not to save his life. In the fourth quarter, Marcus Smart took 4 shots outside the paint. I saw him take multiple 3-pointers with 15 seconds left in the shot clock. He clearly wasn't all that interested in making good decisions yet again. Kemba Walker took 5 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. At least 4 of them, he took 6. At least 4 of them were wide open. If not, just good, clean looks. He only made 1 of them. And they just sort of rolled over. It didn't look like they weren't playing defense like they were about to get eliminated. They weren't. There was no sense of urgency. I mean, the best sense of urgency was when there were 45 seconds left and they were down by 12. And everyone's laughing at them because they're still trying because, that's what you're supposed to do, even though your season's over. They looked more interested with 45 seconds left and the game was over than they looked when there was 4 minutes left and they were down by 4. 96-90. 96-90. And then you get outscored 35-17? In the last 8 minutes or whatever? You let the Heat drop 37 on you in the fourth quarter? 37. With 9 minutes and 15 seconds left, Jaylen Brown made a layup to go up 96-90. Fast forward to 7:40, it's 96-96. Fast forward to 4 minutes, it's 102-110 Heat. Fast forward to 2:19, it's 116-102 and the game's over. One 116-102 after a Jimmy Butler layup with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. You went from up 6 to down 14 in about 7 minutes. It's impressive. Impressively bad. Embarrassing. Embarrassing, just like what the Clippers did at the end of Game 7 of that series was embarrassing. Losing the fact that Duncan Robinson made an off-the-dribble 3. In which, he came around a screen, caught the pass, didn't have a clean look, took a dribble to the left, the guy went under the screen, and Duncan Robinson took a 3-pointer after taking a dribble. Duncan Robinson should never get a clean look off the catch after running around 17 screens. Much less, he should never have a chance to dribble to the left a little bit and create space. Tyler Hero lost on, the Celtics defense was losing him on multiple occasions. Tyler Hero should never take an open three ever again. That's how good he is. And it's like the Celtics didn't understand that that's not a guy that you can lose on the floor. That's like the second to last guy you should lose on the floor from the three-point line, behind Duncan Robinson. At the end of this game, Dragic wasn't even in the game. It was Hero and Robinson closing the game. In the fourth quarter, Dragic played 3 minutes and 12 seconds. The closing lineup in this game was Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Andre Iguodala. What a concoction of guys, first of all. You got Bam, Jimmy, then a dude who used to be playing JUCO ball, Division 3, Division 2, whatever it was. A rookie in Tyler Hero who, wasn't a number 1 overall rookie or anything. And Iguodala. And I will continue to stand by the fact that we need to relax about just how important Iguodala was to these title teams. At least in getting to the finals. But the fact that he was on the floor late in the game, the Celtics just weren't interested. You should absolutely be tearing up a Celtics backcourt that is Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Should absolutely be tearing that apart. Celtics didn't look all that interested in winning. Again, they went out and took 46 threes and 15 free throws. I mean, that's too many threes and not enough free throws. Get to the freaking foul line. Please, for the love of God, get it to the freaking foul line. In Game 5, a game that they won, 23 of 29 from the free throw line. And the other game that they won in this series, 26 of 30. Excuse me. Wrong team. 25 of 29 from the free throw line. 36 of 20. 26 of 30 in the other one. It's not a coincidence. They only took 15 in Game 6, excuse me. Only 12 of 15. Game 4, they took 21, which is a little better. They just couldn't figure it out. Jason Tatum looked like he was in slow motion for the first part of the game. Ended up with 24 and 11 and 7. But 9 of 26 from the field. Marcus Smart took 22 shots in this game. 22! He should be fired. I don't really mean that, but Marcus Smart should never take 13 three-pointers. Never! He made a couple early in the game, and you just knew that he was going to go blow the top off of things. 13 three-pointers. 0 of 5 in the second half. He was 4 of 8 in the first half. And then he comes out in the second half and forgets that he's Marcus Smart, not Steph Curry. 0 of 5. 4 of 13 from the field, 0 of 5, 0 free throws, 8 points, 4 personal fouls. We could say what we want. You're welcome to say what you want about how important Marcus Smart is to a championship team, or how you always want him to be on your team, or whatever you want to say. And part of it I agree with, but the last thing I want is for Marcus Smart to shoot it well early in a game and feel like he has the green light. I can't begin to describe to you how much. I'd much rather him miss 3 out of the gate, so that he stops shooting and gets the in game 5. No, sorry, in game 3. 5 of 10 from the field, 0 of 2 from the 3-point line, 10 of 10 from the free throw line, 20 points. Get to the free throw line, for crying out loud. It drives me crazy. Drives me absolutely crazy. Now we got a Heat Lakers finals. I think it's going to be really interesting. We're going to talk more about that finals in terms of a preview on Wednesday. The finals will start on Wednesday. And that's, that's great. And we'll talk about it on Wednesday, a more extended preview about what happened, about that series, what we think is going to happen. We're talking about it on this podcast today. We'll talk, the story will be out over on 110sportsmedia.com as well. So we'll get to that at some point on Wednesday. But coming up next, we'll talk about the wild card round in the MLB playoffs. I'll give you my predictions, tell you why. We'll do that next on the JMULL Show, 110sportsmedia.com. Welcome back to the JMULL Show on a Monday, twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. Thank you so much for joining us on a Monday. It's raining outside. Hopefully it's a little nicer where you are. But thank you so much for joining us on yet another Monday here on the JMULL Show. It took all 60 games, which is not usually something we can say about the Major League Baseball regular season, but it took all 60 games to get the 16 teams that are supposed to be in the playoffs. It's funny, I saw a tweet the other day. It said, Major League Baseball expanded the playoffs to 16 teams and still couldn't get Mike Trout in the playoffs. It's like, that's a low blow. But it's true. I mean, there's no other sport in the world who's, universally one of its best players is as irrelevant in terms of his team. And that happens in baseball because there's just, Mike Trout hits, he's a phenomenal all-around player, 5-tool athlete, but he can't pitch and he can't, hit 1 through 9. So if there's never anyone on base for him to drive in, if the pitching isn't great, like the Angel, there's just nothing he can do, But it's unfortunate, and we're getting to the point where there are some others. Of course, your Mookie Betts, your Cody Bellingers, your Fernando Tatis Jr.'s, Giancarlo Stanton's, Aaron Judge's, whoever else you want to add to that list on high-level baseball teams. But still no Mike Trout in the playoffs. What we do have is we have 16 teams. We have 8 wildcard matchups. For those of you who don't know how this works, wildcard matchups, 3 games at the lower seeds, higher seeds, closer to 1 home field. 3-game series, very much like a regular season series. 3 games against 1 team at their home ballpark. Let's talk about that. We'll start in the AL. Let's do the AL first. I'll give you my predictions. We'll run through this real quick. Tampa Bay versus the Blue Jays in the 1-8. I think the Rays are the obvious choice here. They have a really high-level top of the rotation. And for most of these series, not all of these series, but for most of these series, and just in general, when it comes to a 3-game series like this, I'll take the team that can put the better 3 pitchers out there. And the Blue Jays have a top of the rotation. The Rays have a top of the rotation that just outmatches that Blue Jays team. The Blue Jays exciting, young, and they'll be relevant for the foreseeable future as long as they, keep what they have going. But give me the Rays in that first round in that wild card matchup. 4-5, the Indians and the Yankees. Listen. This is one of those series where you can put, Shane Bieber's year has been incredible. One of the best we've ever seen from a pitcher. And, of course, it's only 60 games, yada, 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 I get it. But he's been phenomenal. Against the Yankees, but, the Indians struggle at the plate. It's really just a matter of getting as many getting the 3 or 4 runs that they usually need to win a game because their starting pitching has been so good. Against the Yankees team who has an incredible amount of bats, who has the star power at the top of their rotation, I'm going to go with the Yankees here. I think, you get Garrett Cole, you get Tanaka, and then you get the power in that lineup. And I think it's just a little too much. I mean, we're talking about if the Yankees can just scratch across 4 or 5 runs, that they're going to be in really good positions to win. Just because the Indians' offense hasn't been great at all. That's my biggest concern here with the Indians. But I'll go with the Yankees. I think they're, you got your Garrett Cole at the start. That's a W. I find it. Garrett Cole versus Shane Bieber is going to be awesome. But I'll go with the Yankees, even though it is in Cleveland. Minnesota versus Houston. Houston's just banged up. They don't have Justin Verlander. Their offense hasn't been great pretty much all season. I'll take the team who I think is more well-rounded, who has the better starting pitching that they can throw out there to get it done. For the Twins, A's White Sox, I think, is really, really interesting. We did the bonfire last night and had a buddy of ours, Jacob Markeski, on the show, and he was talking about 14-0 the White Sox are against left-handed starting pitching this season, and the two probable starters to start games 1 and 2 for the A's, both left-handers. So the White Sox, that I like their offense much better. Their pitching staff has been good. I'll go with the White Sox, even though, and they had to lose 6 of their last 7 of their last 8. to basically be in the spot, and they choked a wild card, a NL Central, AL Central title. I'm gonna go with the White Sox. In the NL, the Dodgers are gonna beat the Brewers. Both sides of the baseball, Clayton Kershaw on the mound, Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger. This has been the best baseball team all year, and they've had guys struggling. Cody Bellinger struggled. Max Muncy has struggled. Justin Turner missed time. Like it's not like everything has gone perfectly this year for the Dodgers, and still we sit here and the Dodgers are far and away the best team in baseball. San Diego versus St. Louis. I think I've been operating recently in the context of the Padres being the second best team in baseball in the National League behind the Dodgers. I really wish that we could have gotten a Dodgers Padres NLCS. Of course, that just wasn't how the cookie crumbled. That's not how the seeding ended up working out. But those two, that NLDS between the Dodgers and the Padres, assuming that it happens, is going to be awesome. You'd think that the biggest threat to the Dodgers, at least immediately, is the Padres in that second round matchup. But I think that, the Padres are just the better baseball team. Shouts to the Cardinals for getting into this position. They missed a ton of time with the breakout of COVID-19 in their ball club at the beginning of the season, managed to get to the point where they're in the playoffs, but the Padres just a better baseball team all around. Cubs, Marlins kind of in the same place as the Cardinals. At least the Cardinals had a roster that made sense. The Marlins didn't, and then they had a COVID-19 outbreak, and now they're the 60 in the playoffs, going back to the playoffs for the first time since I believe 2003. That's been a long time, and it's been one of the cooler stories this season is just how consistent Miami's been. They started off well along with some other teams in baseball that weren't supposed to be that good. Talking about the Orioles and some of those other teams who started well and then sort of faded down the stretch and didn't ultimately make it into the playoffs. But Miami started really well and then was able to keep it together all the way through the 60-game schedule. With that being said, I'm going with the Cubs. It's just a better baseball team. And they can throw out Lester and Y.U. Darvish and Kyle Hendricks, and those are three pitchers that are just hard to compete with. And then finally, the Braves, the Reds. I'm going to go with the team that hits the baseball really, really well. We're basically talking about the Braves, one of the best offenses in baseball, versus the Reds, who have a really impressive starting rotation. The Reds aren't going to hit the baseball enough to win this series. This is going to be another situation kind of like the Yankees, Indians. The Reds as a team, the worst team batting average in baseball this season at .212. Listen, this Braves offense just needs to find a way to scratch across 4 or 5 runs, maybe, and they'll still be in really good positions to win these baseball games. I'll go with that team who maybe their depth when it comes to pitching gets them in trouble in a longer series, but when you have the offense that they do and good arms at the top of the rotation, I'll go with the Braves to win that series. So we're talking Dodgers, Padres, Cubs, Braves in the NL to advance, and then White Sox, Twins, Yankees, and Tampa Bay Rays. I'm excited. I missed the 1-game playoff. It's one of my, and certainly there's some legitimacy to the argument that, okay, we need one baseball game to not mean so much, considering, that's why we have 162 games, because it is so easy for a bad team to beat a good team on any given day. But what it's done for the beginning of the playoffs, I think, is way has been way more positive than any negative could be. I love the one game playoff thing. We'll see. There's clearly Rob Manfred is clearly intent on making some sort of permanent expansion to the playoffs. Not quite to this extent. You got to give teams an incentive to win their division, which is not the case this year in terms of actually making it to the playoffs. Hopefully it comes back. I kind of like it. I also, see a world in which it goes away, but I really hope not. I like the one game wild card series. Coming up next, we're gonna do some FYI. Get out of here. You're watching the JMULL Show on 110sportsmedia.com. Welcome back to the JMULL show on a Monday, twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you guys having a good Monday. Let's start with let's get out of here with a little FYI. September 29th to October 1st is the AL wildcard series, so we'll have 4 games on September 29th. That is tomorrow, followed by September 30th being the start of the NL wildcard. Listen, we'll have 8 baseball games, which is a little crazy to think about, right? Because there's just, we're adding this whole extra round that has so many more teams than normal, which is just which results in a lot of baseball and a little bit of a, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna keep track of it all? Sort of feeling, which just sort of adds to the uniqueness of this series. A lot of times you feel like the Major League Baseball playoffs is, it's kind of a marathon. Of course, you got a lot of 7-game series. You feel like it goes by pretty slowly, and you certainly don't feel like you're having a hard time keeping up with everything that's going on. That's not quite the case this year. You've got, you'll have 8 games per day from, right in the middle, from September 30th, September 30th and October 1st, right? Those 2 days, you'll have 2 days of 8 games. It's a lot of baseball to watch, but it's certainly an exciting one. Tonight we got the Ravens and Chiefs, something I'm really excited for. It's one of the more exciting regular season matchups that you can have in football right now. You've got the 2 best quarterbacks in the sport right now in Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, and 2 of the best teams in the AFC as well going at it. I think that's, one of the front runners for the possible AFC Championship preview. That would be a lot of fun if we got this game, a repeat of it in the AFC Championship game in a couple months. But you get the first look at it right now and see who comes out on top 2 of quarterbacks that are just, of course, absolutely incredible. And then, of course, Touchline Talk with Josh Doring, Around the Bases with Chris Brown. Both of those will be here tomorrow. Josh will go live with some soccer talk at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Chris Brown, who I'm sure will be breaking down everything that has to do with the Major League Baseball postseason on Around the Bases with Chris Brown. That is on Tuesday. I'll be back on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, per usual. We'll break down the NBA Finals, what I'm looking for, what you should be looking for between now and then. I will have done a podcast previewing that and a story previewing that. So be on the lookout for that, and I appreciate you guys hanging out as always. But until Wednesday, please take care of yourselves. Check out Touchline Talk and Around the Bases with Josh and Chris tomorrow, and I'll see you back here on Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you in a couple of days.